Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I've got Sai with me again.
Hi, this is Sai, and I'm with Lucid again.
Yep. Switched up my intro a little bit. I was going to see if I could throw you off, but you adapted. Okay, so it's turn 8, and we've got expansion going on. Most people, really only Utgard is what I would say having failed expansion. Most people seems to be going pretty good, but we do have some outliers in terms of people who are doing really well.
Yeah, no surprise, the one monster nation is out at the head of the pack, but he did take a turn off this last turn,
Right.
so we'll see if he's picked up steam once again.
Yes, because even though it's an amphibious nation, the god of the nation doesn't want to get their feet wet. It's a bit of a weird thing if you think about it. You're the god of an ocean-faring nation, but you won't get your feet in the water. It's like, okay.
It's a good bit, though. I mean, I love the Drake on Erythea,
Yeah.
and this guy opted for the cheaper, kind of more economical
Right.
antlion guy, which is still a very reliable expander. So, he's been having a great time
Yeah.
and still having really solid scales.
Yeah. So let's start here with the message from Ulm. We have Gicello writing this message. Conflict with Arco looking inevitable with that snaking expand of his starting army in elephants. He followed Lucian's national overview elephant advice to a T there. I think I did like an elephant whisperer video, and I think I just copied Nuclear Monkey's video and kind of updated it to Dominions 5.
Yeah, I think that a lot of Nuclear Monkey's video was about the positioning, though, which was unique to Dominion's 4.
Right. So it did
But yeah.
need an update, but elephant expansion does take a little finesse. You don't just put them there by themselves. You need morale anchors, and you want to time how they hit the troops and all that, but he's been doing that real well.
Yeah. Although, yeah, the one thing that I think we've been commenting is that he was a little slow because he wanted to get a pile of those heart companions out. But now that he's got them, I mean, and from what Ulm sees that like traditional elephant army.
Right.
So it makes sense that that would be like Gicello's assessment of what Arco's doing. But the assessment of running up in between that like little contested territory between TNT and Ulm, yeah, very much
If I was Ulm and I saw that, I would read that as such a power play from Arco. I'd be like, this guy has figured out elephant expansion, and he is just taking over the whole map. He's taken this land because there's nothing left at home for him to take. That's what I would be thinking, which is not the case. He's just going wherever he sees weak indies. Okay, in response, we are bringing out the just-in-time crossbow spam. We assume he sees us as a pushover due to the early bounces, lack of visible troop movements, or unkitted light thugs, which are going to get ruined by his bless and by elephants. Since there's been no direct flag attacks, we're going to just ignore him and finish expanding. I like that.
That's weird because they haven't spoken.
Right.
Right? Like if someone's up in your grill like that, you can at least say like, hey, are we fighting?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, I feel you. I feel like sometimes, I don't know. I think that I have like a weird feeling and I'm trying to articulate it in response to what she said, but I feel like there's a thing where once he starts talking to them, then they're going to it's going to have to come up that like, you fucked up by taking this. Like, obviously this can't be yours in the long run. And once that discussion ends, it's very hard to like use nice enough words where it doesn't end in, okay, we're going to fight you. So if these guys don't want to instigate a war, I can see why they're trying to keep their mouths shut. Because they're like, we'll do a war later, but I really don't want them attacking us. I really want to finish expansion.
Yeah. It's like one of those things, if someone says like X Nation is really big, then like, how do you talk to them and like not be like, oh no, I'm not, or,
Right.
like you can say yes confidently and then, go get everyone to fight you, or you can say, yeah, smile. And then
Yeah.
still also get everyone to go
Just
fight you.
ignoring it is the best and hope that people just are like, oh, that got said, but then ignored.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I can see that.
Okay, TNT has struggled, and Diplo indicates that Pythium is about to go on him. So
I didn't see TNT struggling. I don't know where he gets that. I mean, TNT's not huge, but he's not like losing expansion parties or anything.
yeah, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. He's definitely
And,
struggling to do Diplo with Pythium. I think we're going to get a message from him this turn.
But Pythium said he has TNG said he has naps with everyone but Midgard, I thought.
Well, but he doesn't count Pythium because Pythium's a diagonal neighbor for him.
Oh.
So let me just show the map before we finish reading.
No, TNT is not. So TNT is immediately.
So these guys are diagonal.
north of
Oh, Pythium. Yeah, sorry. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. So
Ulm is saying that that Pythium is about to go on TNT. But TNT had told us that Pythium and he have a nap.
Okay, I just got TNT and Arco mixed up. Yeah, TNT and Arco are the diagonals. Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so troops are likely to go west to take back the rightful Ulmish lands, no matter whose flag happens to be there. In other news, it's not just the Cloud Mages, folks. There's an illusionist unique site. Hitting it this turn, may cough not contagious have mercy upon our souls. May the fat loots be ours. Does Obscuro have, I know it's like a hard-coded high path air mage. Does he have gear?
Obscuro has a unique site, but I didn't see Obscuro.
Okay.
I mean, I might have just missed it, but
yeah, okay.
Because if they saw it, it must have been one of the pings. But yeah, Obscuro has a hidden tower that lets you recruit illusionists, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, so he's saying if he gets an air 2 mage, he can do specs to find it. Sadly, due to map move, that's the only province we're hitting this turn. Northern borders negotiated with Zabala. We get the large plains along with the nap. That will likely be our first fort. A little late, but that's the result of shitty rolls and volatile borders. Okay. So, all right, get up the indie popcorn.
Oh, Bolivar. Sorry, that's the guy.
Oh,
not,
that's right.
Obscuro.
Oh,
yeah.
A dwarven hammer.
Oh,
this must be random. Yeah. I don't think this is hard coded in there, is it?
No, he gets random items. Yeah, sometimes you can actually get really good stuff because he'll occasionally have like just boosters at random.
Right.
Oh, he's got a dwarven hammer.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Obscuro, Bolivar has a 4 air gem site.
Wow. Yeah, that's sick. And then this guy.
And like I mentioned, you can recruit illusionists out of it too.
Right. So he's casting Phantasmal Army, which is not very good against Fire Shield.
Yeah, not a very clever illusionist for all that he's. But I mean, I guess it's fitting, right? As opposed to casting air elementals, he should be casting phantasms.
Yeah, I mean,
he's an illusion. This is not an air elementalist.
This is the most like fittingly scripted AI army I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, this guy's committed to illusions.
Not effective, but as you said, he's committing to the bit. Lightning bolts would have done a lot of work there, but
yeah, they would have.
He's dead.
Yeah, I mean, that was as well as this possibly could have gone for Ulm. I mean,
And you know what's fun is that because he has those 9 Hawkmeisters there, just because that's like his gang. That also means he has a really good chance to recover all those items.
Oh, that's true, right? Because it goes to each guy. So a very good chance he got the Dwarven Hammer, which will be a very nice pickup. I mean, if you think about it, the Dwarven Hammer is basically going to be about 2 gems a turn, especially this early. And I mean, he could have an air random smith. And, that would be 2 gem quills, which would be kind of sick.
Yeah, but he needs to get an Air 2 mage and all specs in order to find that site. Because Ulm doesn't have any Air 3 access natively, so it is pretty tricky to start getting that air income.
Right, but the hammer he would already have to maybe do quills, but he doesn't have any air income yet, so, yeah. But cool. All right, let's come up and look at Zabala. We'll do the messages as we go. Another pretty clean expansion. Loses 4 Obsidian Warriors, which is a little painful. Let's see how that happened.
Probably the Javelin guys retreating.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't all hit the same guy, so they had to fight them before the retreat happened, I think.
Yeah, I guess.
How does targeting work for Javelins? If you attack Archer, will it hit Javelins?
I think so.
Yeah.
I know that it used to. It used to count any ranged weapon, so it would work on like Mind Blasters and whatever as well.
Okay. So
it's been about a year or so since I've done any testing, though.
Yeah. Okay. So he's taken that. A little bit painful. This is just, I'm actually kind of excited to show this. And it's Fulik that's playing Zabala, right?
Yep.
Because this is just classic Zabala expansion. It's like painfully high attrition, but they're so mobile and they get the foreign recruits. I mean, he's also really lucky with the Aussies, but just like making it work.
Yeah, and using those long dead as his infantry corps is also really good.
It's really good. And other nations have had, like Joman had like a turn where he flatlined, even though it's like, or no, was it Joman? Yeah, Joman, Erythea too. Yeah. And it's like, Zabala's not having that because they're just so mobile. They get where they need to be.
Mhm. And then there's actually other nations that can get even more value out of doing this like long dead boosting for the early game. So like the Hinnom line of nations, they get like giant long dead, as does the Niflheim line. So both of those can actually get like a ton of value out of that early reanimation.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Moving along, looks like Joman. Do we have a message from them? No, but they have decided to go underwater.
Right. We've kind of seen this coming. We'd seen that, this is one of the easier pop types. And as we pointed out before, underwater provinces are actually like some of the easiest ones to take for LA.
Right.
So once you hit like that pile of mermen, those tritons are super easy because they have a lower length weapon. And then, yeah, he should be able to take 252 as well from here.
This one's going to be dicey because I think these are technically, especially the Merman Guard, are a little better. But maybe if he splits them up, like maybe if they're slower, I don't know if they are, he could fight them in waves and win. But
yeah, I guess you'd have to check what's there.
Yeah.
Because the guard, you're right, they do have shields. But if there's a bunch more of those dagger tritons, those guys are super easy.
Yeah. Probably worth pinging. I mean, while it would be great to go ahead and take it, you're not really in a hurry. And while you ping, you could get more troops here that are going to guarantee it. Because you're definitely going to need more troops anyway just to take this province. So,
yeah, that makes sense. But he did cut his merman recruitment. Like he didn't recruit another one. So that's interesting, actually.
But that kind of makes sense if you're planning on recruiting underwater. But yeah, no, you're probably right though, because you do want to hit this with you probably need 100 mermen to take this.
Or he might even just wait until he gets his Ghost King to hit that one.
Yeah,
because mermen just aren't going to hold up very well against those armored units.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, the upside of using mermen as opposed to recruiting like underwater to help take the province is that you can still kind of use those guys.
Oh, right.
Like they're not great.
Yeah.
But you can at least like bring them out, use them for siege strength, evo bait, that sort of thing. Whatever you'd normally use naked humans.
If you recruit them, you can also put them in a separate squad that maybe is forward positioned, takes a little bit more of the attrition, something like that. Because you're right, they're definitely less useful once the they're done with expansion. Okay, so they finally hit this horse tribe, which I was thinking would happen a turn before, but I think they were a little too slow.
Yeah, he just recruited a pile of the cavalry, so he's not doing anything clever like he had been doing before with like the baiting.
Yeah.
With using like mixed infantry cavalry, he's just pulling out his wallet and paying for the province, basically.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and just offer a small critique here. I think you do. These guys are in the middle. You definitely want to be on a flank, in my opinion. And like if you slam it to the front, you're just not going to have the kind of surface area you could get if you come down here and work your way through, where you're really only making contact with 2 squares of guys at a time, while you're going to be having like 8 squares almost in contact. So.
Yeah, there's actually much higher value against Horse Tribe in particular than others. So Horse Tribe and the Crystal Amazons, just because those guys are actually much more threatening in melee than they are at range.
Yeah.
So they've only got short bows, but they also have lances. So like once you're in melee combat with them, you definitely don't want to like get surrounded or have just like a high surface area attack, because that puts as many of the Horse Tribe guys in melee as possible.
Right. So he probably could have done this with no attrition, maybe even just one if, did it differently, but that's okay. No expansions anywhere else for Joman. So, yeah. And he's making these Go Hamato, like Hadamotos, like he had talked about.
Yeah, the heavy bodyguard guys. Did he ping that thread? It must have been Joman, right? Yeah, no one else even... he slammed his mercenaries at it. Okay.
Okay.
I guess he didn't feel like rebidding on them.
I mean, this is basically just an indie province. There's no mages.
Yeah, that was a pretty lucky roll, but still not enough meat in this particular army.
Yeah.
And that's so unfortunate. The heavy infantry didn't make it off the field.
Oh, yeah.
So he could have routed. He could have gotten rid of 6 more if they'd been able to route completely.
Do you think it's possible to flank this army? Like hit the crossbows? I always have trouble doing that. These infantry.
I don't think you can do it reliably because you have only one squad because these are mercenaries. So you can't do anything to draw the infantry away. You'd need to bring some of your own troops as well.
Okay.
I think that this squad of heavy cav and some of like Joman's starting army and stuff might have been able to do this, but the cav by themselves, I don't think they were ever going to clear it.
Okay. Cool. Well, maybe we'll see him mobilize more stuff down here. He is making, it's kind of interesting. We have like Swarm Horde down here with the bats, and we have like elite, samurai units up here with Joman. So
Yeah, but to be fair to the Swarm Board guy, he is actually also building his elites, right? He's got the Ozelotls from his
Right.
book, and he's got the Capelnly Sacred Bats as well.
Yeah.
So he's got some heavy hitters that are actually going to match up pretty well against those heavily armored dudes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, and then Arco, who we've talked about incidentally, just through talking about Ulm, but they expand out this way. This is just so strange to me. Because I was like, oh, he brought all those extra mages. Maybe he splits them up. But it's a single expand.
Yeah, it definitely seems like an overcommit. Especially given that these mages aren't even doing buffs. I mean, they're doing self buffs.
Yeah.
They're doing like, Barkskin, but like they're not buffing up the units.
But it's so strange to me because
Oh, actually, the Neokoros is the Neokoros is the priest.
Yeah.
She's like a mage priest. So his mage is probably like site searching or building a lab. Yeah, he's site searching. Okay. Yeah, that's not so bad then.
Yeah. No, I mean, that part's fine. But the strange part to me is like clearly this guy knows how to like do budget expansion. Like this starting army, which is kind of a pile of garbage, plus the 2 elephants, was just doing immense amounts of work. Like it couldn't be stopped. And then he's got this like super high commitment thing. Like, come on.
Yeah, that definitely is too heavy of an expansion party.
Yeah.
But he's still got room.
Oh my goodness, what is
People
this?
didn't expand for them.
Pit of Despair, Academy of War, Labyrinth of Skulls, and a Wild Forest. That's not bad. Does that put him up at number 1 on gym income? It puts him tied for it.
But he's had that.
That's not.
I mean, he's had it for a while though. It looks like.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice little boon. Coming over, Utgard. Ooh, the pain.
I got one more.
Pain, yeah.
I'm a little surprised that he hasn't started making Long Dead of his own by now, though.
Yeah, Long Dead would have really helped with this slightly anemic build. Because it's, with the Regent Garm, it's a threshold thing, whether they die or not. And just having
because of God's Awake, you can reliably hit it turn 1.
Yeah.
So you can start summoning turn 2.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it like builds on itself too, because, like taking a few hits for the Garms means it's going to be a lot easier for them to not die. And then if you have fewer Garm attrition, then the fights are going to stay easier. But it's like the difference between 12 Garms and 9 Garms is kind of a lot because they're going to be taking a lot more hits. You're going to be killing things slower. So
and there's a bunch of like other just nice incidental advantages to having those Long Dead out too. Like, and they're very high map move. Even the human-sized ones, like they move fine, but the giant ones especially. And while not relevant on this map, they can also go underwater. So like in LA, you'll have those just like super easy underwater provinces, like the stuff over near Marignon, where you can just, go take that with your giant Long Dead. No problem.
Okay. So hopefully we see our first double expand out of Utgard next turn. Got my fingers crossed.
He's making human Godi Huskarls. He's not making more Garms out of his cap.
He's done with Garms. Okay. Interesting
colors. Yeah. I don't think that human Huskarls are what you want to use for expansion though.
Yeah, I wonder what he's thinking. I wish he would. I mean, I think he's a little mentally checked out, but even still, he must have thoughts about what he's doing. I'd love to hear them. Yeah. I mean, maybe he's like, all right, fuck the Garms. Let's try to switch over and get mages, right? So.
Oh, I'm sure he's already been recruiting mages because we've been seeing them add up over time.
Well, he's like started a fort here. Maybe his thing is like, I'm going to just hope I can get 3 or 4 forts up and make enough mages where we're really not going to be relying on the Garms at all. But maybe not.
Yeah. See where he
goes.
I
mean, turning off Garm production is significant as hell, especially when you're turning on cheap human troops, to replace them. Like, this is a gold saving strategy.
Yeah, it might just be to afford that fort. Yeah. That would actually make sense.
Okay.
So it might just be a one-turn thing of like, I need to start this fort now, therefore.
Yeah, that probably makes the most sense, actually. Hey, Heim. No message from them, but some very clean expansion against a few horse tribe. Oh! Golf clap.
Finally got that last ender,
They finally got it. Bring out the victory sign. It's what? George Bush, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
We got him.
Well, in this case, he actually is going to keep the province.
That's true. That is true. No profits yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while because they take a little while to respawn, or
Yeah.
not respawn, to reset to let you declare a new one.
And he still hasn't gotten this library province. He's gonna freak when he sees this.
Yeah, to be fair, he doesn't know it's a library,
Yeah.
but once he does get it, he's gonna be a very happy camper.
Yeah. It's like, how would you like to be #1 in research?
And also just have astral mages.
Yeah.
Like, maybe can never get enough astral mages.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, so things looking good for Vedheim. Miclan.
Looks like they had a bad event.
Okay, apparently the Harpy Prophet was bad intel.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like be super surprised if a pan did that just as like a flyby to like kind of see, hey, is this going to go randomly kill someone? But it's probably not worth keeping in there,
That's insane.
right? Especially because
Did you see that?
oh yeah, the commander got sniped.
Yeah.
He won the Olympic javelin catch.
Right. Oh, he's starting to make rain warriors here.
Yeah, he negotiated for I believe both of his lakes, so it makes sense that he's going to need to start turning on rain warrior production now.
Yeah.
In order to go grab those. And he can afford it too. Like his scales are decent.
What do you think about this putting the priest in the middle of the guys? Oh my gosh.
So what I like to do.
Units.
So first of all, if you're using Eagle Warriors, your priests are a little less vulnerable because you're gonna kill the ranged units. But I also like put a lot of emphasis when you're using that like kind of army composition on baiting the indies and having them go into melee with like disposable units. So like either replaceable indies or when you're starting out your slinger guys.
Right.
So like with that type of composition, you're kind of a little less vulnerable to getting your priest sniped.
Okay.
Just because he's going to be as far back as you want him to, because you don't need to worry about like getting your sacreds into melee, and you're already focused on like getting your guys blocking because you actually want to have an engagement for a different reason, namely baiting away from the Eagle Warriors rather than baiting away from the priest himself.
Yeah.
So you kind of incidentally cover for that weakness.
Okay.
If you're using Jaguars like this Miclan build is, I think that it is something that you need to like think about. But I also think that with like a Jaguar type build, you can kind of afford to take it a little easy and still just like use bait as just like bait. Like have guys that are just like, squads of one unit way up at the front of your army just to give yourself like that little leeway of I don't have to worry about arrows for the first couple turns.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think what I have found is I kind of like to put the like whatever unit I'm trying to bless, maybe towards the center of the display, and then have the priest at the back. It's a long distance, but bless is pretty long range.
Yeah, it's kind of like 10, 15 squares or something.
Yeah. So
all right, before I say nonsense.
But it is it's a major concern for Miclan and Jaguar expansion when you're going into archers. So
yeah, and he's using the Rain Priest, so they actually have an even better range and area effect coverage because of the H2.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, he can definitely keep those guys pretty far back because the Rain Priests in particular are completely unarmored.
Yeah. One thing I was actually thinking about today, Sai, was I'm going to be really interested to see for like Miclan's first war how he uses his starting mages and like what his starting research is. I was thinking like maybe Nahuli and Wooden Warriors, but it was for people who watched Mountain Arena with Demosthenes, who's TNT in this game, he was playing Miclan. He just did so much work with his cap mages, and a lot of them were water twos, like doing quickness or, body ethereal or whatever it was. Like the moon priests, but he just did so much work with them, and it's really reminiscent of what you were talking about, where you'll mobilize your whole mage corps for the first war.
Yeah, I think almost every nation should be thinking about it, right? Because your mages are such a large part of your power budget in Dominions, like in general. And while it's a little less true in the like super early game, if you have a timing where they're actually going to like do something relevant and your opponent doesn't, that's a massive advantage.
Yeah.
I will say though that for M8 or for any era of Miclan, I love getting those moon priests because those become your horror casters. So the earlier you can get away with starting moon priest production, in my view, the better. And then, there's still some relevant ethereal buffs that they can cast, or I said it, astral buffs that they can cast, like body ethereal and luck. Nahuali are a little bit better at it because they've got wooden warriors in there as well.
Yeah.
And then the other advantage of Nahuali.
One thought here is if you're doing body ethereal, that's a really high or reasonably high fatigue cost. I think it's what, 30? but luck is 20. So it might be these guys with the Astral 1. They might be better if you're planning on doing luck and cheat fate and stuff. It might be these guys are going to be a little better for like true body ethereal spam.
Yeah, but Miclan isn't really great at spamming that anyways, because you tend to use like a large number of units,
Right.
compared to like a relatively small number of elite sacreds that like take up fewer squares.
Right.
So with that in mind, stuff like Wooden Warriors is a little higher value, I think.
Yeah.
And then, excuse me, the other advantage of the Nahawali is their mobility, right? That they can just fly around.
Yep.
Very easy to get them into a fight and then back home to read books.
Yeah. Nahuali. Okay, I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Oh, I have no idea how it's pronounced.
I think you're closer. I was like looking at the spelling. I was like, I think he's right. I mean, there's also
Nahuali.
just, if I say it, it's probably wrong. Like the odds are
Nahuali.
against me saying it correctly.
Nahawali.
Okay. So anyway, expansion seems to be going okay. I mean, they lost this thing, which was a little unfortunate. And they took 2 attrition here. But
they had another priest get sniped earlier.
Oh, did
you'll
they?
recall.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
That was like a couple turns back where they had just like the commander get sniped, but they took the province.
So it's a little tragic, but I think they're they're getting closer to middle of the pack on income after this turn. But you can see they were number 2 in income right here a few turns ago.
But yeah, they just got some extremely rich provinces right off the get-go.
Yeah.
But their expansion is, I would say, like, pretty comparable for everyone else. And now that they're not, getting the super rich provinces, they aren't pulling quite as far ahead with each new one that they take.
Yeah. All right, Gath, our scales drain Gath. Here they're attacking into what must be heavy cav, because I see the obligatory lance pincers.
Yeah. And these guys actually handle heavy cav okay. Not because like they have, some amazing resistance to lances or anything, but more just because they hit hard enough that heavily armored troops just die fast enough.
Yep.
That normally threatening units like these cavalry just get chopped down pretty quickly.
That's a great point. So only lost 1 of the Gittite soldiers. Pretty sick.
Yeah. Those guys are expensive, to be fair. Like this is like, 525 gold in a stack.
Yeah.
But
I mean 25
worth it. Like
yeah. It's a tough province. And apparently
he has only one commander.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since he has only one commander though, that can't split up, so he wouldn't be able to take, say, the Lion tribe and something else.
Right.
But yeah, he might bump Marignon there. Just because he has so many guys, he might want to go for the harder province first. But did they discuss borders? I don't remember if they had agreed on theirs.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. But I think this was the only expansion for them. We don't have a message from Gath.
Yeah, they did build a lab there though, and it looks like they're stacking up to go take the Amazons.
Yeah, that does look like what it is, and presumably come down here and establish this border with Miclan.
Yeah, and he started with the Yeti, which is actually, in my opinion, really good. If you're doing a Drain Gath build, those should be your primary workhorse mages, as opposed to the cheaper human mages.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, those are the Earth guys. So
what's the reason for the lab before the fort?
The fort is already under construction.
Okay.
So I would have site searched before building the lab, but it's not a huge deal, and he probably had the money.
Okay.
So he's like, may as well get this taken care of.
Okay. I was making sure there wasn't some foreign recruit mage I didn't know about.
Yeah, no, Gath doesn't have any that I know of, I don't think. I know they have like the heretic mages, but you still get them out of forts.
I just realized we have 3 lava lakes here in a row. There must be some invisible magma chamber we can't see that got put into the map.
Yeah, really lucky for those nations that actually get those gems though, because it doesn't normally get fire and Gath doesn't normally get water.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's it for these guys. Marignon, no message, but they expand over here, and they're continuing with the Zabala level attrition. I think is the only way I can describe this.
Yeah, so one thing that I think that he should be doing is setting his hero forward.
Yeah.
The reason for that is partly because the guy himself is tanky, so like he actually can take the hits and be expected to be okay. But also because that's going to put his retinue forward. And since those guys are crossbows, they're not going to move forward of their own accord the way that some other retinues might.
Right.
And because those units are respawning every battle, you really want them to be tanking for you.
Yeah, I mean, 17 protection is pretty freaking good. So yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing when the battle started.
Yeah, it's not just that they're actually like, decently tanky guys. It's more that they're completely expendable because you get them back every fight.
Right. Okay. So loses 10. And while not a tragedy in and of itself, it's just another note in the song of Pietrician from Marignon.
Yep. And he's still committing to using those chart makers.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, that is one of the cool things about late age is because you have a lot of nations get citadels. If you come up with anything useful that mages can do, you can use them a lot easier than you can in other eras to supplement expansion. Because you get 50% more mages. So,
Yeah, and this guy in particular definitely factored that in, given that he took that awake researcher.
right. So, okay. Presumably, he's probably going to combine forces here. I think so. I think this is what I think they're going to go here, and maybe Gath will bump them or something. But I think he's going to combine. I don't think these are.
Those are just the mercenaries. Those are spearmen.
Right. I don't think this
I
is
would
strong enough to
assume-
take this alone without a tremendous amount of attrition.
Yeah, I would assume by this point that they've settled on borders, though.
Okay.
Especially because Gath has naps with all their neighbors.
Right. God, it's really interesting to me that has like quickly become the meta for the finals. You know, like this doesn't happen. This is not normal to Dominions that people agree on 80% of their borders in pregame. It's interesting, but weird.
Well, I mean, we also noticed a bunch of exceptions to that, right? Like Arco and Ulm.
Right.
And Erythea and Atlantis, where folks were very obviously like expanding towards, and I mean, if you look at Erythea now, but kind of jumping the gun there,
Yeah.
he's expanded into what should be Atlantis' natural territory.
Yeah. And committed to it by sending the god as well. How about that? How about them apples?
Well, we knew that the god was heading there, right? Just because he moved in that direction as opposed to his south.
Yeah.
So what's interesting isn't that the god is there to me; it's that he brought the other guys too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think he was thinking there might be a bump. And with a god this killy, having a few things there to keep your god from getting mowed down in a couple turns, you know, could make all the difference in a bump with Atlantis.
Yeah, and if he had a scout, he would know that that's not the case, right? Like
Right.
Atlantis hadn't taken the neighboring provinces
Right.
yet, because he did already see that one, the one that the Ghost King just took. So he knew that the Atlantis wasn't coming from there, and I believe that the other one is a mountain connection. So with Atlantis's cold scales, he wouldn't have been able to get there anyways.
Look what we got now. A personal regen and enlarge.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that's 10 regen a turn. That's very significant now.
and it's also reduced affliction chance.
Right.
So yeah, we've been commenting that would be one, or that would be a really helpful spell for him to add, and it looks like he's done it.
Yeah, I think just getting this spell has kicked him up from being like a light thug raider into probably being able to kill just any single indie province. Just about.
Yeah, he should be pretty comfy. I still don't love the pathing for combat purposes, but like I mentioned when we first seen it and started discussing it, this is a build that screams to me that he has something that he wants to build. Like he has some specific spell or some
Right.
specific item that he needs his god for.
Yeah. So hopefully we get to see that soon. Interestingly, we'll come back over. We didn't finish this other column. There's a fort under construction here with the temple advertising that it's a fort.
Yeah, but we've kind of already known that, right? Like
Well, but
that had been the
Atlantis is
first
gonna
one that he
know
put
it,
down.
for sure.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I don't think you send your Ghost King at that though.
Yeah, I mean, skeletal body, it's going to be good at dealing with crossbows.
Right, but you know,
Oh, it's heat
you
too,
don't know
though,
what-
so chill's not going to do much.
and you also don't know what Erythea's research is, but you see that it has a Daducho there.
That is true.
So like, what's the undead killing thingy? It's like
Like solar rays?
solar rays. That was it.
Yeah.
So that's only Evo 2, right? So that's extremely accessible early. And
But you have to be Astral 2. Are these guys Astral 2 all the time? I can't remember.
no, but I mean, they can, a significant portion of them are going to be like it.
1 in
25%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one solar rays caster isn't a huge deal for this guy. It's obviously not great, but
Yeah, that's true. It's only 12 armor piercing a turn.
yeah.
So he can survive it, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his regen would keep him up. But it's still like definitely more threatening than an indie province is how I'd categorize it.
Yeah.
Like
And,
there's
you know,
and
there
you
are
also don't
crossbows
know.
that are certainly coming in. I mean, I like what Erythea is doing here. They're slamming crossbows, which are going to be very good against a lot of Atlantis things, especially like look at what they're making. Like Atlantis isn't making shielded stuff yet, so looks good to me.
The other thing is that Erythea's sacreds have magic weapons.
Right.
So if he's got enough of those out, and presumably Atlantis hasn't seen his bless. Actually, Atlantis should know he doesn't have a bless because he sees the merm.
What did but the Merm was 4/4. Was it strength and attack or what was it?
Attack and reinvigoration.
Oh, so it was for mages.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And +1 morale.
Yeah.
So a little better against that fear aura from the Ghost King there.
Yeah. Okay.
So like, you know, if the Ghost King was geared up, then, you know, sure, you can try to throw it at him. But without any armor on him, I don't think that you send that into an unknown quantity of Erythian troops and mages.
Yeah, it would be ballsy. Be very ballsy. I think it would work if Erythea doesn't do anything, and it would be a really big deal. You destroy a temple and a fort. But I don't. The other problem with doing it is you're now in a full-fledged war.
And you already see that he's got stuff on your border too.
Right. And you haven't finished taking all your indies. So. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. It was interesting that he decided to expand north first. That might be because he wants to fight Erythea in his first war, so he wants all of his troops to be on his southern border at the end of his expansion. That might have been like part of his mindset.
Yeah, that's
the other thing that I could think of. Yeah, is if he's going to be fighting with Erythea, then they're not going to want to, like, you know, set up agreeable borders and a nap and whatnot. So if he is racing towards borders with his other neighbors and is like, okay, this is, you know, where we're going to be drawing our lines, then you're in kind of a better position to get favorable borders, just, you know, by virtue of having taken the provinces already.
Right.
And then with Erythea, if you're planning on fighting him, then it doesn't really matter what the borders look like at the start because it doesn't change, you know, depending on the flag color that's currently there.
Yeah. I mean, if this Titan could magic phase, I think I would favor Atlantis in the war. But as it is, I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, in the super early game, Erythea has relatively few tools that are great against really high protection units. So he's going to be stuck fighting in his own dominion for the most part.
Yeah.
That said, because he's pushed out like relatively far and has that fort under construction, he might be able to do that and, you know, just fight reliably in his dominion.
Right.
The other thing that's really cool about Erythea's position right now is that while he already has a bunch of provinces, he still hasn't taken his little pocket lake there. So he saved that. So even though he's already big, he's going to get +3 provinces, like almost guaranteed, in addition to what he currently has.
Yeah. Oh God, I just realized I probably have audio feedback from my headset to the mic. I just fixed it. Sorry for everybody. Whoops.
I heard a little bit, but I think that it's light enough that your mixer thing's going to catch it.
I hope so. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. We're going to see what's going to happen here. I don't really expect Atlantis to be aggressive, but it may be the best move if if they are headed to a war. This would really cut the knees out from Erythea if they took it and it worked.
Yeah, the Erythea war, I feel, gets more and more Erythea favored as the time goes on, just because Erythea has faster research, and they're going to get more and more armor negating options.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there might be some period where it becomes Atlantis favored again once they get like Wailing Winds and stuff, but yeah, there's definitely going to be like a mid-game trench, I think. Especially, too, we don't really see the high-quality Atlantis troops coming out. Yeah, it feels like the Erythea research is going to ramp up faster than the Atlantis troop production.
That said, the poison resistance in the Bless is going to make them resistant to the Sulfur Haze.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll still take the fatigue damage, but they at least won't take the like real poison damage.
Yeah. Let's come over here. We'll come back to Pythium. I want to actually make sure we finish this column here. So we had a message from Agartha. I just found out I'm the message minion, and Aaron's plan on sending is planning on sending 0. So might as well give a general summary. Aaron is doing all the broad and strategic choices generally. We don't even talk about Diplo beyond him informing me who we're attacking, in this case Midgard. I'm just here to script and provide research and war advice. On that note, it's a pretty simple plan of penumbrals and later umbrals getting point buffed with protection and quickness. This with cave knights, gemmed meld. I guess that's
With E1 mages, he means.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
that you're,
Okay.
yeah.
Cubes, crossbows should handle most of the Midgard builds pretty handily, especially because Tianqi's is also attacking the elves. Beyond that, there ain't much to say. Now I'm going to go check about 7 times over to make sure I'm sending this to Omni and not to all. TLDR, Aaron gets all the credit for everything. I wouldn't have picked Agartha anyway. And Same Old Ways by Emma Louie is very catchy. Okay. Or Emma Lou.
Yeah, so that was from Wolf Wolf.
Yeah.
So the cube early game answer to Midgard, very fun. Obviously, you can't get acid resistance, so that absolutely clobbers defense tank cavalry because they just get destroyed by the acid shield if they don't get swallowed up.
Right.
And since he's already going for point buffs for the penumbrals, the cubes like the exact same buffs.
Right.
And that tells you also that he's going with the better mage, namely the alchemists, which are the more versatile out of Agartha's mages. People really like
The
skeleton guys, the reanimators, and they're okay. Like, you can do stuff with them. Having a free Solus is actually really cool for Evo bait purposes because that guy's going to slowly shamble forward. So, like, they're pretty cool. And then the early production is also nice. So I've seen people like get them for expansion. But what's really going to be more valuable for your first war are those alchemists, just because they can do a lot more different stuff.
Yeah. Pretty much all these are valuable. The death ones actually coincidentally are the least valuable, but 3 out of 4 of them are going to be either fire, water, or earth too, and pretty much all those are useful. So,
and even the death guys can make penumbrals.
Yeah. So yeah, for expansion, I think we have two expansions this turn. Pretty minimal casualties. Agartha must be near the top in terms of province size at this point too. I feel like he's just been kind of creaming. Oh yeah, he's tied for first.
Yep. And unlike Erythea, who's just kind of spiked out with a monster, Agartha's been doing it with, almost perfect scales.
Right. And that's usually a much better position to find yourself in. Let's see if income also reflects that. No, Erythea's got some really good farmland or something. So
yeah, that would be my guess.
Agartha is head of the pack, but not ahead of Erythea. So,
although it's kind of funny, Agartha also has 2 farms.
Yeah.
His farms just aren't as cool.
Yeah.
That is actually interesting. Oh, you know what it is? It's because he's got caves, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's got a swamp and a cave.
Swamp, a cave. He's going to have a wasteland and then
mountain.
Mountain. And yeah,
that's kind of really unlucky. Like, that's really just map rolls. Like, it wasn't even like terrain types. His provinces are just worth less.
Yeah, I know that pain. It can be really annoying.
And it's also like an invisible disadvantage. Like, looking at the map, right? You wouldn't know that Agartha was that much poorer than Erythea because there's no indicator. And you're like, oh, Agartha's got 2 farms. He's probably doing great.
Well, I mean, he does have a lot of special terrain types, though. So
yeah, but forests don't provide a malice.
Is that right?
Yeah, his provinces are just smaller. It's just an unlucky camper.
Yeah, okay. Let's keep going. Moving up to Agartha's professed first target, which is the elves. We finally see them getting broken up into the squads that I think you would find appropriate.
Yeah, but he's still using his commander as a not attacker guy.
Sleep clouds from the mages,
and also vines. Actually,
yeah,
one of the has got tangle vined.
Yeah, these nature 1 mages can fuck you up. I think they often have like a gem or 2.
Warriors are not helping.
Yeah. So loses a van there. A little unfortunate, but I mean, vans also don't love piles of slingers. It's not that they can't handle it, but it does pierce glamour, so it's a little annoying for them.
Yeah, and that one was lost as it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just got large quantities of these guys.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be easy enough. That one's got a big That one's got a starting army with it, basically. So presumably that one's going to go south, finish up his expansion. Has he started more forts? Is the
But
question.
yeah, it's a great thing to check. We got a fort here in this farm. And then no fort here, but we have a scout there, so he might fort that
Yeah,
next.
he's got 3 scouts out, so he's definitely expanding his scouting network, which is good. As a Scales Midgard build, though, you really do need to spam out those forts.
Yeah. But I mean, forts, I feel like there's not really many people. We were looking at the forts graph the other turn. We don't see a lot of activity yet. I mean, obviously they won't have come up yet, but honestly, we just haven't been very rigorous about checking how many ports each nation has in progress.
Yeah, you can kind of get a feel from where folks are building them, though, when they've got commanders like that.
Right.
Because, it makes total sense to recruit scouts, but if you're recruiting commanders, well, they're probably building a fort.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that is indeed an indicator here. For Pangea, oh my God.
Another nation
This
that wants
is
lots of forts.
huge I mean, this is like an attack a player army here. For this, maybe it was just convenient to move them. I forget where they all were the previous turn.
Yeah, this is combining 2 expansion parties. So this is like the Satyr plus Dryad from early. And then his mercenaries. Oh, so it's like 3 groups, actually.
Yeah.
It's those, the mercenaries, and the Cataphract expansion party.
Pangea declares war on the independents, sends in an entire army.
I mean, yes, 33 crossbows is a lot, but from here you can split up.
Yeah.
You can take both of those 2 provinces next, no
Yeah.
problem. And then he should also be able to get that farm just west of his cap with the mercenaries and his capital stuff. So he probably can look at getting 3 provinces next turn.
Yeah, that would be super nice to see, especially on the back of this turn where it looks like he only single expanded. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And he's also a nation that wants to start spamming out forts. So he should be having 1 or 2 under construction at this point.
yeah, let's take a look. LA Pan doesn't really need to do them in forests anymore, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't get any benefit from that.
Yeah.
Japan also doesn't need to do forests in particular. He is the one that has like the forest only spell.
Right.
With MA, like you
There's a
benefit from getting
malice
like
too with EA. Does that continue into the other ones? I can't remember. Like EA,
MA
forts are expensive if they're not in forests, or maybe they're expensive in general.
They can only build palisades is the thing.
But they're expensive too, palisades, aren't they? Or am I misremembering?
It's basically just they can't get upgraded forts, right? So you can only get 1 commander point. And since you can foreign recruit some of your mages anyways, like there's no point really, or you can forest recruit some of your mages anyways. There's no point in like making a 1 CP fort unless it's like on a throne or something.
Okay.
In LA, you can't get the forest recruit guys, but your mages are cheaper and extremely good. Like we've been talking when we were doing like the nation overview.
Right.
These are probably some of the most efficient mages in the game.
Yeah. Okay. There's something I'm thinking of. Somebody's going to put in the chat. I'm pretty sure there's, because I remember the gold cost somehow is higher to make a fort, even a palisade. I think in EA Pangea. I mean, you just won a tournament with them, so I think you would know.
Well, MA Pangea is different from EA because EA has a Research 0 force only fort summoning thing,
Right.
which gets you one that adds a commander point. And outside of that, they don't get bonus commander points from their forts.
Right.
So like you only build them basically to fort thrones or
Right.
Otherwise like to get that. And even then, like you often want to wait for like a summon.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that finishes this circuit. And then I think that we haven't covered TNT yet. But and Pythium.
Yeah. So Pythium, we
Just
with Pythium, I really want to see what they're doing with their magic, right? Because they
Right.
have that awake researcher, and I haven't seen them use wizard yet.
yeah, I wonder about that too. And we haven't seen any labs. Here's one. That's good.
Okay, so he is getting Granatai.
Yeah. And then
So that's his cap recruitment. Okay, so he's probably going to do the typical like Skella spam stuff then.
Okay.
I was thinking like if we saw thirds, then he might be doing something unusual. And since those guys are cap only, it is often worth just like getting just either the big serpent priest guys or the thirds from your capital, and then getting the Renatai in your out of cap forts.
Yeah, and what is
But if you have But if you're planning
acolytes.
on doing like Skella spam early, then the Thurgs aren't going to be
Right.
quite as valuable for your first work. So you need to hit critical mass of those death mages. So that kind of is like the fact that he's using the Renate early is like kind of telling me that that's what he's going for.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of serpent acolytes here, so but maybe these are just research monkeys.
Well, one of them at least is doing the temple recruitment for the Hydra
Right,
hatchlings.
right. It does look like he's left this border with TNT to be his last border to close. I mean, he's got a little bit border here with Arco too, but
Yeah, but we know that he and TNT have a net, or at least TNT had told us that.
right. But this is aggressive. Like he's building troops everywhere, which I love. I love seeing all this foreign recruitment, but he's gonna do this to go stab somebody. Like you don't do all this. Like if you're planning on having a delayed first war, like maybe turn 18, you're probably not doing foreign recruitment everywhere. You're probably thinking like, okay, let's get another fort up or something.
And these are the expensive guys too.
Right.
Like these are the guys that cost 14 gold, which, as I mentioned when we were discussing this, like they're not the guys that I go for just because you're paying 40% more gold, unless you specifically want that fire resistance.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I mean, he's basically just paying a lot for that one attack, depending on who he fights.
Yeah. Okay. So really interesting. I think to summarize for TNG, for Pythium, you and I are both just interested to see what he's going to do, because it's kind of like he's building up for some power attack and we're not quite sure what it is yet. My best guess now is it's going to be protection with serpent acolytes, but who knows? You would think in nature ones you would use your really, really cheap guys, the little
Misties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
he also doesn't have his lab spam yet. He's actually
Right.
kind of really slow in terms of like getting his mage numbers up.
Yep. Totally agree. Oh my goodness. TNG, we got a message from him. I'll pull that up in a second. But first, the failed expansion.
Yeah. I think this is just unlucky, honestly. Yeah, that was just a really bad morale roll on
Yeah.
that first squad. They lost a unit, so their squad size went down to where they get the morale roll, and then they failed the roll.
Yeah, but some of
And
this was a choice. Like he chose to put them all in a single or like into two squads, and there weren't really enough units to do that super reliably. It's nice to do that, like so that it's much harder to get flanked when there's two squads. So like some guy comes around and kills your commanders.
Yeah, I think he was doing it that way in order to protect the ceremonial master.
Right. But this is the risky run. So they still did kill a lot of stuff. Jesus, look at that.
They killed everything except for 2 commanders.
Yeah.
So this was almost successful. And honestly, like I think that's generally the style that I like to use as well. Just because multiple squads keeps your commander so much safer.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm not faulting him. It's just, but it is a calculated risk he took that didn't pay off here.
Yeah, luckily with just 2 commanders, you can send like very casually like a handful of horsemen at it and then go grab it.
Right. Except you might bump the elves who are right nearby. But this would be a pretty aggressive move for them to take that. But
yeah,
with only 2 commanders there, it's hard not to.
I think that like seeing the 2 commanders there though, Heim would kind of expect a bump. So like the only reason that he's going to do that is if he's planning on fighting TNG himself.
Right. And I don't think we've gotten any word from Heim or Midgard as to what their first war.
We got a message from them.
Did he say who he's going to fight?
We did get a message. I don't know, but we have a message there.
Oh, wait.
I don't remember what the message said.
Oh.
From Midgard.
Oh, here we go. I don't think we'd read this, so I'm glad you mentioned it. Agreed to a nap through with Heim, no cancel till turn 18. While I still have cold resistance, stacks of the sacreds would be quite problematic to fight, and things might be easier with some air elemental support. I think that's very sound. Agreed to a nap through with Pan. While the player has some experience with the nation and just played it, he seems to have a tendency to Sim City. Someone aggressively snowballing from a quick fight against Marignon or Erythea would be worrisome.
It's interesting that he thinks those two are rush bait nations. I guess Marignon does have that reputation, but I definitely don't think Erythea does.
Yeah.
The only thing I could think of is he's like, oh, obviously Atlantis is going to kill Erythea, but like, I don't think it's all that one-sided of a matchup.
Okay. Wait, maybe I misunderstood the message. Let me. How does Pan relate to that? Wait, so Pan.
So he's saying that Pan is going to sit still and snowball. Sorry, sit still in Sim City.
Okay. Because Pan's neighbors
so
are these
he's
two. Okay, gotcha.
so he's saying that like it because the player isn't going to go rush and kill these guys, then he's not going to be as threatening as a more aggressive Pan might be.
Gotcha. Okay. But okay. Was this a nap with Pan? Nap with Pan, but oh, okay. Wait, I was sorry. I was looking at TNG flags. Pan's his northern neighbor. I was thinking it was a diagonal for a second. Okay.
Right. He's saying he's going to nap with Pan because he's not as worried about this player
Gotcha.
because he thinks he's going to sit still instead of snowball the way that you should with the LA Pan.
Right. Scouting has been slow, but it looks to me that TNG and Agartha might have some expansion troubles, which might make them appealing targets for a first war. Okay, well, there we go. So he's thinking about fighting these two guys who are thinking about fighting him.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he want to fight both at the same time. And he also definitely does not have appropriate scouting on Agartha. The only thing he knows apparently is that Agartha didn't expand towards him first, right?
Right.
So that's what he sees. He sees those gray flags on the Agarthan border, or, he's like 1 or 2 provinces in there. But he doesn't see that Agartha's already taken everything to the south.
Right. That's actually one of the really interesting things is like he's looking at this data and seeing like, oh, this is like this player's struggling, right? Maybe a good war target. When really what it is he's expanded everywhere else to have good borders. And then these provinces he's going to get last are going to be just, an appetizer to the main course, which is attacking him.
Yeah. So this is kind of like what I was commenting on with Atlantis as well, is that you tend to want your first war target to be the last direction that you expand to, because then your troops are already there. So they just move from the indie provinces into attacking that player directly.
Right. Okay.
That's kind of a map nuke specific thing though. On like random maps and stuff, you can't really make that determination.
Yeah. He and she, let's go ahead and read their messages. See, before the game started, Arco approached me about trying to kill Blood Nations early. This is Arco, the nation, not the player. And we've been sharing intelligence about Ulm's poor expansion. This turn, I find that Arco used the information I gave him on when I'll be reaching Ulm's border to cut me off from Ulm to greedily grab a rich province early. He says his price for it is holding it for 3 turns so he can make scouts plus 400 gold. Ooh. 3 turns and 400 gold is a little... Okay, for you guys to understand this message, I need to show you. This is what we're talking about. Right? So, Arco is trying to sell this province that he can hold for 3 turns, collect the 100 gold from it, and then have TNG pay him 400 gold for the privilege of taking it.
Yeah, as TNG, I'm like, this is my province, and then after I take it, we can talk about what borders we want.
Yeah. And at 95, which is also definitely not his to grab an expansion. That's this southern one here. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I think he meant 65.
I think he has in reverse here. Which was also not his to grab an expansion, is not for sale. Further, now he's saying he isn't planning to rush Ulm after all. Maybe he got spooked by the decay weapons part of the bless. Wait, what?
Well, they hurt elephants. Elephants have low advantages.
No, I know, but like...
That should not spook him. Right.
Well, no, that too, but I mean, like, he's not planning on rushing Ulm. Like, we got a message from Ulm this turn, which is like, apparently Arco wants to fight early. It's the only way to interpret his actions. Right? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Needless to say, these terms are not acceptable. I don't think there's a single player in the game who would take them in this situation. Where we literally told him our expansion plans. He didn't comment on that and then used that information to cut us off. The information he shared was because he wanted to attack Ulm first. He was going to probably let that be the last area he expanded to. And then this information got used by Arco to go eat that land up. I'm bidding on Dante's Stingers to finish expansion in my northwest and sending a large force to reclaim that land. I also don't think I can trust the player given he's already shown himself to be too greedy to work with. Too bad. Geographically, he would have been a good ally. And I'd really have preferred to use that army that's going to kick him off that land to take the thrones before rushing Midgard.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that that's kind of repeating what he just said. But the other thing that's interesting is that if his armies are like rallying in force on his eastern border, if he's not planning on fighting Ulm next, they kind of have to go back home, right?
Right.
Like, you can't really invade through that diagonal there, at least
No.
not easily. And you don't want to fight Pythium, right? Because like that was a player that he already has a nap with.
Right.
So he has to march all the way back to the other side in order to go help fight Midgard. So it's kind of going to delay his offensive against the elves.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the thing that sucks about this is somebody kind of has, I think what we could generally agree is a slightly unreasonable demand by Arco. You do have to worry, like players who make unreasonable demands sometimes have unreasonable decision-making apparatuses running in their head. And like, what would happen? This is what I would be scared about. It's like, okay, clearly I should take this. So I take this from them this turn. And then next turn, I see literally like 130 troops here on the border because he's going to like fight for this land, which in principle would be his. And then I'm just stuck in some horrible, dysfunctional diagonal war. And I want to like uninstall Dominions.
Upside is that in this case, he has an ally in Ulm.
Right.
Maybe not the ally that he wanted, just an ally of convenience in terms of like they're both bordering this player. And regardless of who Arco chooses to like focus on fighting, both these guys are going to be taking some like blue provinces.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say too. Cool. And then I think we've covered Erythea. So I think we've done with everybody. We didn't quite make the hour target, but
Yeah, one of these days.
one of these days. Well, thoughts, comments?
I think we've been pretty thorough as we went, so
Yeah.
should be all.
Cool. Well, flash up the province graph again real quick before we exit out of here. Yeah. Erythea and Agartha and was this Atlantis?
And Atlantis, right?
And Atlantis.
Yeah.
The tripartite that is at the very top of this.
And what's going to be cool is that two of those nations seem to be gearing up to fight each other, with Atlantis and Erythea being both natural opponents and seeming to be positioned for exactly that.
And this is also one of the marks by which you know you're in a good game or not, like with like the quality of the players, is like turn 8, there are not a lot of gray flags left on the map. You know, it's basically everything from this turn on, you're going to be risking a bump if you didn't negotiate it.
And you might be risking a bump even if you did it.
Yeah, that's true too. So, yeah, I mean, we're getting close to the end of expansion, and probably in the next episode or two, we're going to be getting into First Wars. So, pretty excited to see those start breaking out.
Yeah, I'm especially excited for what these Awake Research nations are going to pull, because we've got like a couple of them now with, you know, Marignon, Jotunheim technically. So, and then Agartha also has very early research because they've been recruiting Chthonian alchemists in Magic 3, which are just very high research mages. So we're actually going to be seeing a lot of early game magic deployed in all of these First Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty stoked to see that too. That's a great point. So, all you viewers at home, thank you for watching. Sai, thank you for joining me again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, and we'll see you next time. Take care.